show where the real stories flow. Tom the real pissing predator, letting the truth show. From crimes to politics, he dives deep into the core. MMA, trending news, nothing he won't explore. Get ready for the ride, no filter, no disguise. TRPP'S True Talk Show, where the real stories flow. Tom the real pissing predator, let the truth show. From crimes to politics, he dives deep into the core. MMA, trending news, nothing he won't explore. Get ready for the ride, no filter, no disguise. TRPP speaks the truth, no sugarcoat or lie. Buckle up, hold tight, the facts will blow your mind. Smash the like, comment, subscribe, don't let this pass by. No, let this pass by. Unveiling mysteries, shedding light on what's concealed. Tom unravels the unseen, the untold tales revealed. Each episode a journey, a roller coaster of insight. No topic off limits, the uncovering taking flight. Brace yourself for the impact, the naked truth on display. TRPP'S voice echoes loud, resonating far and wide. Standing tall in the storm, unafraid to take a side. Join the conversation, let knowledge be your guide. Hello. And the roar of honesty, the rhythm of the real, in the realm of authenticity where lies can't steal. TRPP'S True Talk Show, a beacon of zeal. Hello, let this pass by. Hello, let this pass by. Hello.
What's up, guys? It is your boy, the real Piscean Predator, aka TRPP, and I'm back with that true talk, baby. Let's go. All right, guys. So this was kind of rushed. I wanted to make it here before the show started. I was going to go live, but I moved the studio and have not got a chance to actually test it out. So we are going to give this pre-recorded a roll, and obviously, I'm coming back a little bit earlier than I wanted to. Still dealing with some health stuff, but hey, there's no way I wasn't coming back for this plea deal hearing for Bryan Kohberger. This was the case that got me to start making true crime content, and yeah, so there was no way I was not going to come back and at least do a video on this. Like I said, I was going to go live, but I didn't want to risk. It sounded really bad because I don't even know if this is going to come out that great. But that being said, if you're showing up for the premiere or you're catching a replay, either way, I appreciate you greatly. I will more than likely be in the chat during the premiere. And like I said, we're gonna watch this transpire, and I'm gonna give my thoughts and my opinions on it throughout. Because I have some mixed feelings on this. Obviously, most of you that have rocked with me know exactly how I feel about this case and the outcome that I foresaw. I didn't see it going this way, but I definitely knew the dude was guilty. There was too much facts, too much evidence. It was just the whole encompassing circumstantial evidence that they had. It painted a story that, to not believe it was just kind of crazy. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. We're gonna watch Court TV's. They should be going live pretty quick here. Let's go ahead and get it pulled up. Okay. So I am so hoping that the sound is coming out on this. And yes, I'm not camming up on this one. I know it's rare that I'm not on cam, but your boy just got off work, took a super quick shower, and hey, I ain't did up, man. I ain't trying to have people make fun of me for looking raggedy. Um, anyways, guys, so I guess we'll chat a little bit before this. Once again, appreciate anybody catching this on the premiere or catching, the replay. Appreciate it very much. If you're not a subscriber, it's free. Hit the subscribe. If you could smash that like button, help your boy get back out the algorithm, because I'm not sure how quick I'm going to start doing live streams again. I mean, I really want to do them now, but they take a lot of energy, and I'm kind of still adjusting to work, adjusting with doing physical therapy every day. There's a lot. I think I'm going to do a little video on updates on all that stuff. So if you could smash the like, I'd appreciate it greatly. I'm not going to ask people to do any memberships yet. I mean, if you want to, by all means, that'd be awesome. But until I'm a little bit more active, I feel bad if you guys did it and it's something more happened and I had more setbacks and I couldn't put out content for you guys. But for my members that have stuck with me throughout all this and didn't drop their memberships, I mean, I might just have like a handful of you guys. Dude, I appreciate it so much. You have no clue. No clue. I appreciate you guys. Means a whole lot. But that being said, I've been fairly active in the community still, as far as I'm in a lot of live streams, whether it's true crime or even in the drama. Yeah, I've been around giving my opinions, and whatnot. So it's been pretty cool. So at least I've got to stay tight with the community. And that's been nice, because if I would have to do all this recovery and deal with all the stuff that I've dealt with in this last year plus, man, it would have been rough. So it's been like a year and a half going through all this. So having the community and having the support has definitely been appreciated. All right, so let's go ahead and get into, I'll give you guys a little bit of what I'm thinking. When I first heard that they gave him a plea deal and he took it, immediate emotions for sure. I had immediate emotions rolling through me just like everybody else did. I mean, it literally took me a good 30 minutes just to sit there and kind of just process what my feelings were on it. It was, yeah, man, very, very rough, emotional wise, because it was like, yeah, it was instant, we got that instant, he's guilty, right? There, because you ain't pleading out like this unless you're guilty, unless you did it. So it was like, we got that, yeah, the instant confirmation that, most of us that were in that, I know innocent until proven guilty and all that good stuff in the court of law, that's court of law, but we always, we always freely give speculations and whatnot on this channel, as long as it's respectful, you know what I mean? We've always done that. So a lot of us were leaning towards his guilt. So the fact that we got that, finally got that confirmation, yeah, I mean, he's the guy. No ifs, ands, buts about it. He's the dude. It was, and like I said, I always thought he was, but getting that confirmation was, I mean, it was good, but then it was like knowing that this guy wasn't gonna get the punishment that he deserves. That really, that kind of chewed at me, man. And I had to really stop myself and check my emotions on it. I really did. I was like, in that moment, I realized how emotionally attached I'd become to this case. I was always been able to approach this case with that rational, logical thought process, looking over the details, the circumstantial evidence, even, trying to come up with how he did it, and why he did it. I really tried to stay rational and, and I think I did a good job on that. But man, when you are following a case this long and see all the ups and downs that happen, and then, it, you just, and then the type of a tragedy this was, like, how do you not get emotionally, pulled into it? I got kids, I got daughters, honestly, like, I think the ratios of three, young ladies and a young man getting killed. I mean, that's literally my kids, man. I got 3 daughters and a boy, so it was just kind of, I guess, part of me kind of saw my kids in it, So, but anyways, I had to check myself, check my emotions, and really start looking at it, And it's like, once again, you all know I'm for the DP. I feel like that guy should have got the bullet. Um, so that being said, like, I just, it was rough. I had to really step back and look at it and be logical about it. And I mean, the plus is the families know for sure. I mean, most of the family felt like they knew that it was him, obviously. Um, but now it's for sure. He admitted it's him, right? This plea is him admitting it was him. Um, Granted, they want to know, some of them want to know the details. I think it's like a 50-50 split. I think two of the families are mad, and the two of the other families are good with it. And I understand both ways. I understand both ways. I can see, the emotions, and I can understand the emotions. But as far as looking at it logically, this man will never get a chance to walk free in society. He won't be able to, get another go. It's it. This is a wrap. Still deal. Life in prison. Um, so that's I guess a positive in a way, but also it's like it's kind of hard to chew on too, because granted he's going to be in there for life, and he's not going to be able to get out. He's not going to be able to try this case, and like have that second chance. He's going to get to live until he dies of old age, or prison justice gets him. So that's kind of hard to chew on. And then the fact that this guy literally, so like what he was going to be a professional for, like what his schooling was. He's going to sit in jail and be questioned by the same people that more than likely he was taught by, people that he looked like as colleagues, future colleagues of his. So he's going to get to play out what every serial killer plays out. And you all know my opinion. I do believe, and like I said, there's no evidence of it. I don't think this was his first go. I think there's some stuff in PA, and I think that grand jury in PA and his parents having to testify there, I think that that bolsters my opinion on that. But I do believe he was a budding serial killer. I believe that's what he wanted to be. I believe that he was trying to perfect it. I don't think he was going to, if he wouldn't have been caught on this, I truly believe he would have gone on to do more. But every serial killer has these ideations of not just the crime and the victims and all that. They also know eventually they will be caught. They know this. And so all of them do have that game plan for after they're caught, right? They know what they're going to do. Some of them end up confessing and pretend that, to be remorseful and all that good stuff. But, I don't ever really buy that. I feel like that's just, when they do that stuff, it's just to get more attention. But they all know the moment they get caught, there's going to be all these perks, right? What I mean by perks for them, it's like they get to be part of this heinous evil club of monsters that are going to be studied, and they're going to go into movies, they're going to go into documentaries, they're going to go into books, they're going to be taught about. Their story is going to live on, so they're going to be immortalized in a way. And that there's you had to know that Kohberger, he's that to the max. Like a lot of people, debated, well, maybe he was just an incel and he was just angry and he just snapped, and that's all that it was. And, he took it out on these, maybe one beautiful girl, and then there was collateral damage, or maybe he targeted that whole house of, beautiful, successful, popular girls to take out his incel rage. But I really think it's like a combination of all of it. I think it's his psychological makeup. I believe that, that accompanied with his childhood and things that he went through in his childhood. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it's a big combination of things that drove him to decide that this is who and what he wanted to be. All right, well, I'm gonna shut up. Let's hear what. Let's hear it. Bro, I can't believe it. Look at that smug muff. Oh, I hate that dude. Come on, Judge. Let's roll. Let's rock and roll.
All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and pardon me, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and
Man, that judge be confused right now. Look at him. I feel like the emotions got to everybody. I literally felt it this morning. Felt that emotional energy build.
Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Miss Allen is here as well.
Ms.
Your
Allen
Honor.
is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise. First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case.
Bunch of lame probers, that's for sure.
This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate.
Yeah, I find it funny that there was so many people that I understand wanting the family's opinion to matter on whether he would get a plea deal or not, but it really doesn't work that way. So like all the calling into, to try to get the judge swayed to go against the plea deal, that bombards the court with a bunch of unneeded nonsense. Really, it's kind of crazy. Like I said, I don't really agree with it, but we'll get into that a little bit more once this is over.
The court is not supposed to, and this court will never take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding its judicial decisions in cases. Court should, and I always will make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me, period. I have not read any of the numerous messages nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement.
Dang, it got that bad. People were making threats. I mean, because that's wild.
I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this, because again, it is not appropriate and frankly not something I would take into account when deciding a matter in a case like this. I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is. The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue, including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for, and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. If I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime. That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea. Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July, with the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was, once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this, getting this trial potentially underway on time, and including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or if for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue diligently towards trial at the time specified.
Hopefully that teaches and clarifies the situation for a lot of people that seem to be confused about it. I think some people are confused about it and some people just don't want to accept it, but either or, hopefully this clears it up for them.
And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so, again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finish the hearing this morning, I ask that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is like it's going to be mass chaos at the end of this outside of the courtroom. Be anxious to see the interviews if any are done. So yeah, maybe we'll go over that too.
Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and the Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing. Frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting and had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today.
Ooh, here we go. Take a deep breath. Hey.
I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates in sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment, burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate, that is, that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another.
Bro, that is, I mean, knowing that we don't have to go through their BS trying to make him look like he was such a poor guy that suffered so much that caused him to do this, like to negate the sentencing. I mean, that's huge, honestly.
Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35.
Dude, that saves years of appeals, years of the family and the survivors and anybody affiliated with this saves them years of heartache and trauma.
This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so.
Bro, that judge, he ain't gonna give him any less than what he deserves. There's no way. Dude, Idaho would riot. The whole state would riot.
Under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to?
And to think this lady was hellbound and determined to show Kohberger's innocence. She was ready to put off on other people, other innocent people. Like it's wild. Like she proclaimed his innocence. And I understand that's what defense attorney is supposed to do, but she did it with such vigor and confidence. It's, I don't know, just defense attorneys can make me cringe.
Do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you informed your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
I have.
Have you apprised your client of any and all offers and counter offers and answered his questions about those?
Yes,
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that you so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
There you go, Kohbergers, and everybody else that wanted to hear his voice. You get to hear it again. Oh, I hate that dude.
And now, while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't need to stand when you speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated, all right? Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include, on count one, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life imprisonment, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment.
Dude, hearing any money attached to people being murdered is just, man, it always makes me cringe. Always makes me cringe.
To operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right to possess, purchase, or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote. Do you understand the charges and all those possible consequences?
Yes.
You've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that plea agreement?
Yes.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that you've been charged with that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
Bro, there is no emotion as far as like, there's no guilty emotion in that voice. Like, he just, dude, this man makes, this, okay, I'm gonna shut up. Let it roll. Let it roll.
As I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Is anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
Damn, right there, guys. For all the Kohbergers, your boy just admitted it. All right, just admitted it. He's guilty. So I
And counsel, obviously, there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
see that right there goes to show you he knew he was cooked. He definitely knew that there was no way out for him, and he did not want to gamble catching that bullet.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case. Should you not plead guilty, did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You understand you're giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you
It's a whole lot of yeses. It's a whole lot of confirmation. And like I said, man, I have gotten so many arguments with so many Kohbergers over this case, and so many conspiracy theorists. So it just, hopefully, they're taking it in right now. Unfortunately, even with all that, there's still going to be conspiracies rolling around. They do it because they lack morals, integrity, and they want the clicks and views, unfortunately.
to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty, let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. As to count three, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez.
Yeah, this is hard to listen to. I'm gonna be honest, because you know that he's enjoying this. He's enjoying this on some level.
A human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count four, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count five, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
Does it get much more guilty than that? It doesn't get much more guilty than that.
I want to also make for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
So this is just going to bolster my opinion that there may be some positive about this plea deal happening. And I'll explain it more once we get done.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you?
All the questions are being answered, guys. Everything that everybody wanted to know, right? All the complaints I heard yesterday of people being upset that this wasn't going to trial, that we're looking at it emotionally or out of their pure, I don't know, selfishness that they just needed to know the details. You're getting your answers right here.
You honor about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
So saying yes to all those, I mean, that would tell you that he was going in, and in my opinion, he was going to kill everybody that he killed. And I'm not saying that he had the targets picked, but I believe that he was going in to kill everybody in that home. And I believe the fights, the struggles that were put up, honestly saved the other two girls' lives, in my humble opinion. Just my opinion. Because right there, he just admitted that it was all premeditated, that there was no accident about it. He was in a state of mind that was clear. It was a plan. So, yeah, in my opinion, I believe if he hadn't have been fought as hard as those girls fought, and he didn't have to spend the energy and the time that he did, I think he would have killed everybody in that home. Just my opinion.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing in his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include at trial video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway just across the state line from Moscow.
Why is there? That's crazy. It's I'm hearing two feeds.
Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that
That's gonna be on their side because I have no windows open that would be feeding into that. That's definitely gonna be them.
the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn.
Yo, this double feed is killing me. I hope they figure it out because I know it's not on my end.
And the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of
Oh, they
1122
fixed it.
through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But
I don't think we've heard anything that we didn't already know yet. So I'm wondering if they're actually gonna put anything out in this hearing that, you know, we didn't know if you were following it closely.
it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with a black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning,
I wonder if we're gonna get clarification on what he had, if that was the knife that he had in his hand or he left with something.
so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. and they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, this Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. He was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence.
And a lot of people speculate that he might have been going back to retrieve the knife sheath, and I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he was returning to the scene of the crime like a lot of serial killers do, or arsons do, to see the chaos they created, to see their work. It's part of that sick psychology. That's just my opinion, of course.
About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up. The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th, 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath.
I still think that whether he did it before he got back home or he did it while he was out, running those errands, going to those stores, I truly believe that obviously he got rid of all the evidence except for that knife. For some reason, I feel like that thing is buried or stashed somewhere. And I could be wrong, but for him to have gotten rid of all of his trophies is kind of strange to me as far as these type of murderers go.
As the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders. The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate. Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Mogan's body in the bed.
I always wondered what item they had tested whenever they did that pull to get that result back. A damn Q-tip, eh? Crazy. But and then them not mentioning those 2 traffic stops on the way to PA. I mean that means that it was truthful that those stops had nothing to do with investigation, which I didn't think they did, but I know there was like a lot of conspiracy with that, a lot of conjecture with that.
Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court and the public, the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course, we are now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania,
That's more than plenty of time to get rid of and clean up and make sure that there was absolutely no evidence at all. I was hoping they would have found something. I was hoping that something was going to come out that they did. But come on, 6 weeks, especially if it was pre-planned. So he did everything he could to commit these murders as clean as possible to get away with it. So, I mean, obviously the pre-planning would have been what he was going to do with everything when he got back. So I guess it really doesn't surprise me too much. I never really did, honestly.
defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. I think we can all look to our own cars, in those compartments in the doors. We try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. Defendant's car.
Dude, he wiped that thing spotless. I mean, come on. I know that there was claims of OCD, but spotless car, like that level of spotless, like it's brand new. Tell me he wasn't trying to hide stuff.
Car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me, Mr. Kohberger entered the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Colonel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Damn, was he getting emotional? I feel like there was some emotion coming out there.
All right, based on the state's proffer and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1 burglary felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2 Murder in the first degree as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonsalves, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
I swear it feels like he's proud. I feel like those responses are said with some type of proud voice. It doesn't sound like he has remorse at all.
The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case. I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon, the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed, given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And
Yo, I ain't gonna lie, guys. One, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. It's accepted. The plea deal is accepted. But I ain't gonna lie, man, it's gonna be rough watching the victim impact statements. Dude, I don't know. I'm gonna have to like prepare myself for that one.
certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than 1 full day for sentencing?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August. The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the logistics that will be required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th.
Oh, looks like I'll be trying to take the 23rd off of work. I would like to do that one live. I'm going to see how this pre-record premiere sounds sound-wise. Like I said, I didn't get to test run this studio since I set it up in here in this new room. So if I can get it running and I can get that day off, I think I will live stream that. So look out for that. Look out for that.
We'll start at 9 in the morning. Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right. any reason why I should not rescind the non-dissemination order at this time?
Your Honor, I think that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
We'd have no objection for the order to remain in place through
All right,
sentencing.
I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn in order to give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should. That said, obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it, it would be revoked, though.
So, yeah, we basically have an approximate time frame for the floodgates of FOIAs to open up and information that everybody so badly wants to come out. So, interesting.
Prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked, given his plea and no longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated
trial
and those
is-
4 jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated, and I'm sure that the jury commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned. All right, please.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. So, he, yeah, that's about as solid as a confession as we're gonna get. I mean, he was guilty across the board. He admitted to everything. That's it. Like, until sentencing, I mean, it's not officially done, right? We got sentencing, but I mean, it's kind of done, man. All the speculation. Is he guilty? Isn't he guilty? All the crazy conspiracies, all the pro-murder arguments. I mean, those should all be non-existent at this point. Like I said, there's still going to be crazy people that want to speculate and throw conspiracies around, but I don't pay them no mind. Now, my opinion on this, man, like I said, I have mixed emotions, mixed feelings, but looking at it logically, one, plea deals are given. They're always given, right? Whether or not the killers take them, that's a whole other, or suspects, I should say, take them. That's a whole another thing. But I guess if you take a plea deal, you're guilty. So it is what it is. If you do a little research, this guy has modeled himself after many serial killers, not just one. There's multiple. He could have went through this whole trial, put these families through a whole trial, and decided to take the plea deal before the trial ended. So he could have literally went up there for 11 weeks. In week 12, when the trial should have been over, been like, okay, I'm gonna plea out. So as much as I don't like the fact that this guy ain't gonna get a bullet, and as much as I don't like the fact that he's gonna be living, I wouldn't say his best life, but the life that he knew would be coming eventually when he made the decision to take lives. As much as I don't like any of that, and I don't like the fact that he's going to get to be interviewed by all these people that were in the same field he was being educated in, as much as I don't like all that, this does save the families. It saves them from years of appeals and trauma and sitting through sitting through a trial and having to hear details, autopsy details, like crime scene details, like all these different things that would just paint a picture in their minds just to cause more cemented trauma. So the 23rd, he's going to be sentenced, and I do not see that judge giving him a lesser sentence than what he deserves. I just don't see it. Another thing I might add too is the fact that, I mean, he could have went through this trial, he, fought it, and looking at all the crazy outcomes of trials lately, all it takes is one juror, one sympathetic, emotionally decision-made juror that doesn't trust, the system. That's all it takes, guys. Like, this dude could, I mean, I don't think he would have, but there's always that possibility that one juror. Look at all these crazy cases, man. I mean, like, some of you might think, we'll use Karen Reed, for example. Most people, I'd say most, there's a lot of people that don't think she's guilty, but look at, I mean, how many people are dead set that she was guilty, and like, look how that went. Dude, the Diddy situation, right? I mean, come on, man. Like, that dude's getting away with a lot. And then there's many other trials where the person should have been convicted and they're just not. I don't know. It's crazy to me, but that's the truth of the matter. That he could have fought this, and there possibly could have been a technicality or just one juror. That's all it takes. So, in my opinion, as much as, like I said, I feel like he deserved the death penalty in that bullet. In my opinion, long term, this might have been the best outcome for the victims and the families. I don't like saying it. I really sympathize for the families. I sympathize with Steve. I mean, I get it. As a father, I'd want blood. I'll be honest with you. I'd want that vengeance. But if I'm looking at it as a person that does true crime, that's followed many, many, many trials, who's studied these type of killers, it might have been the best outcome for them. Oh, I don't like saying it, but I think it might have been. And I know people are going to have emotions over this case for a long time, the outcome for a long time, but hopefully people can come to peace that, this might have been the best situation, the best outcome. I don't know what else there more to do to say. I don't have a note. Obviously, it's a premiere right now, so hopefully I got a bunch of you guys down in chat that I'm bouncing back and forth with in comments and discussion. But since I don't have a live chat here, I think that's a wrap. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. It's already kind of a long premiere, and most of you probably already watched what I'm premiering. So, but if you didn't watch it, hopefully you enjoyed this premiere. Hopefully you enjoyed the chat, and yeah, man, it feels good to be back, making a little bit of content here. And like I said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and drop a video for you guys. I'll give you guys a little update on what's been going on with me and the plans and whatnot for the channel. And then obviously, like I said, the 23rd, I'm gonna try to go ahead and get that off and see if I can be ready for the live stream for that sentencing hearing. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. If you're not subscribed, if you're new here, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Hit the like button, share the premiere out. And like I said, I'm not asking people to get the memberships right now. I mean, you can if you want to, it's appreciated, but I'm not asking for it because with all the health stuff I'm going through and the life stuff I'm going through, I don't want people to be buying a membership and, expecting a bunch of content like I was putting out. We'll get there eventually. I mean, that's the plan. But anyways, all right, guys, thank you for being here. Leave some comments. But until next time, guys, till the next live stream, premiere video, whatever it is, it's your boy, the real Piscean Predator, aka TRPP, or aka in the community trips. I'm out, y'all. Much love. Peace.
show where the real stories flow. Tom the real pissing predator, letting the truth show. From crimes to politics, he dives deep into the core. MMA, trending news, nothing he won't explore. Get ready for the ride, no filter, no disguise. TRPP'S True Talk Show, where the real stories flow. Tom the real pissing predator, let the truth show. From crimes to politics, he dives deep into the core. MMA, trending news, nothing he won't explore. Get ready for the ride, no filter, no disguise. TRPP speaks the truth, no sugarcoat or lie. Buckle up, hold tight, the facts will blow your mind. Smash the like, comment, subscribe, don't let this pass by. No, don't let this pass by. Unveiling mysteries, shedding light on what's concealed. Tom unravels the unseen, the untold tales revealed. Each episode a journey, a roller coaster of insight. No topic off limits, the uncovering taking flight. Brace yourself for the impact, the naked truth on display. TRPP'S voice echoes loud, resonating far and wide. Standing tall in the storm, unafraid to take a side. Join the conversation, let knowledge be your guide. Hello! And the roar of honesty, the rhythm of the real, in the realm of authenticity where lies can't steal. TRPP'S True Talk Show, a beacon of zeal.